I've had guys mention to me, well, what if I run to the store and I know my family's home and I come home and I see my front door kicked in? There's a lot of assumption that goes into that. And I'm like, if it's clear, like you have busted door frame, it's kicked in like this, this is the question I asked them. So it's obvious you didn't like come home, hit your garage, you go up in there and you come in, your wife's screaming in the back. That could be one of the kids fell down, is bleeding, the freaking sink is overflowing. There's a million things that go on with it. But for this particular purpose, it is a bad guy. He's kicked in the door and you just arrive home and you see dust still in the air. You can see the door frame is kicked in and you hear your wife screaming in the house or your kids screaming in the house. At that point, this is where like this building clearing idea and then an assault separate for me. Whose safety are you worried about? Are you worried about your safety or the safety of the people that you're going in there for, right? And that's how we talk about like with active shooter with the dudes. It gets active shooter, all these big fantasies guys have. At that point in time, it is public safety, not your safety. So these techniques of slow pies and doing all this are for your safety. And now again, the priorities are out of whack, right? Yeah. Or are you going to go in and pie every corner of a structure you intimately know, your own house? Are you going to slow creep and do all these things because of some fantasy bad guy who's your wife's in danger, but he's just waiting on the corner for you? Or are you going to go in there and confront and identify the threat that may end up not being a lethal force issue? Does that make sense?
Right. And
like for that same scenario.
Is. And to me, so I had a similar experience of that when I was a very inexperienced graveyard cop. And there was no CQB. We didn't do any of that. We probably had one of the worst foot breaches on a commercial or like a hard skinned, like a apartment door that you could ever have. But we had to get inside, right? We didn't have equipment. A lady was in there and had stabbed her boyfriend and was holding their kid with the knife. And so at that point, it's like you said, that priority at that moment is to help that guy and get him some medical attention and separate her from that child. And if you looked back at that, and I don't remember if we had cameras or not, and you'd look at that and be like, well, there's no CQB used. You were terrible, right? You didn't pie, you didn't do a muzzle switch at the T intersection between the bathroom and the bedroom. You didn't cover plate to plate each other. And it's like, well, we didn't do any of that because we had to just go directly to where they were. And, one of us is making a decision. Are we about to possibly use lethal force on this lady in front of this small child? And then here's our guy who's been stabbed multiple times, right? What help do we need to get him? It was a very different situation, and we didn't use any of that stuff. And we ended up having to close and go hands-on with her and separate her from that child and then do medical attention on him and help him out. But there was none of that. The breaching wasn't correct, right? Like if that was a scenario in a school or a class or whatever, we would have failed the breaching portion and we would have failed the CQB portion. But at the end of it, though, we had a small infant that was unharmed. We got medical attention to the guy who had a collapsed lung, and we took her into custody with the minimal amount of force, right? For as crazy as that situation was. So again, there's all these scenarios, man, that people seem to have sometimes. Like, I don't know if I'm just kind of turned off to it, but I just kind of look at it as like, again, why are we here? What's the problem? What do we need to solve? Who's the most in danger at this point, right? Where do I fall on that scale as either the police officer, the specialty officer, if you're on one of those, right? Because that changes it, because now you have different equipment and resources and capabilities, right, to steal from suspect venue and environment. The other side of that is, hey, what do we have to deal with this problem, right? You have to look at where you fall on that scale, or if you're just a civilian by yourself, right? And making a decision at that point of what's it going to be. And at the end of the day, it might come down to getting through the structure as quickly as possible to solve that problem. So is that wrong?
No,
right?
I don't think it is at all. And that's kind of the point of it. Like, I think CQB has been overly sexied. And I'm going to make a comparison. I've played video games and they're fun. If you don't do all these techniques in the video games because there's 87 other people trying to kill you, you're going to get killed, right? But no, I'm not aware of anyone here in the continental United States that's taking over Fallujah. Like, even a normal search warrant's not that way. If you hit a house and there's 6 bad guys in there with guns who are actually legit bad guys and not pussies,
you're probably going to die.
Fucked. Like, it's just, that's
Yeah.
a bad hit, man. Like, oh shit, I guess this sucks. And even if you're doing it for real, like, there's all these layers of things that we use to cheat. But in the end, like, the concepts, the basic concepts, why are you there? Well, I want to find out if it's occupied. Then go in there and see if anyone's in there. Well, that's dangerous. Then don't do it, right? Like, is something telling you that it's going to be that dangerous? Then find another way to deal with it. If you're pieing around and you think this guy's in there waiting for you, the boogeyman's in the corner and he's waiting for you with a gun, which I guess can happen, right? I'm not aware of the last time it happened. Most contacts, now that we have the glory of the BWC and we get to watch hundreds and hundreds of these constantly, where we are contacting people on entries and search warrant, not search warrants, patrol building clearings, right? They're going through and just clearing, hey, there's a guy right there, right? I just did one on my patrol shift on Sunday. Lady's like, I came home, there's a guy in my bed in my trailer. And we were like, well, that's illegal. Let's go in there and get him out. And the patrol guys went up and they're at the door and there's a window here. And it's just one of those things from the outside. You're like, well, that window doesn't go to anything we can see. So stop talking at the door and just go in there and let's clear this. So we go in, we clear the front part and they're like, hey, let me see your hands. I can hear them behind me. I turn around, there's a guy in the bed and a girl in the bed. All right, here, do this. Can you hear me? Do you understand? You're under arrest, blah, blah, blah. We get them up, they come out. I say, the one patrol officer's got his gun pointing down the hallway of the trailer with no light on. I said, would you put a light on for that real quick? He goes, yeah, and he turns the light on. So I start taking apart stuff in this room. We start clearing, going forward, and I see the guy's legs sticking out. Another guy, now a third guy in this back bedroom with his legs sticking out.
Who would have
And
thought?
I just go, hey, dude, it's the police. You're under arrest for trespassing. What's your name? And he tells me his name, and I said, okay, roll over, do what you're told. We're not going to hurt you. But we didn't like, hi, and do all this. It's just, let's go find out if anyone's in there. Because in the end, however they act is what you're going to end up dealing with. And I don't care what school you went to or how fast you think you are, you're not going to beat the fucking guy who just starts shooting at you. It's just not happening. So stop. You got to find them. You got to identify them. I'm not telling people to run through the house. I'm saying use your senses. Go in there and just start looking for people and deal with the problems that arise. Maybe that's just too... Maybe that's one of those things where you've done something enough and you've seen enough things and there's little things that you're capable of, you and I are capable of noticing, the breadcrumb trails, right? The smells, like tweakers smell a certain way, right? There's the little things where you can see doors, the way the way the doors in the house are, and you can hear stuff going on that give you a clue to deal with it. I still don't go crazy with some sort of magical technique. It's like play it as it comes and kind of just react to whatever it is. Because I've been in thousands and thousands of rooms with hundreds and hundreds of people on search warrants. I haven't had to shoot any of them, but I've had upwards of 9 people in one room. For now, you're just going, okay, everybody, hello. And they're like, I'm just here for a minute. You know how that all goes. All right, everybody just sit tight for a minute because we got stuff to do. And I don't know why it gets so complicated.